Okay, so we are going to generate some content between now and when I arrive to this workshop. No pauses, no overthinking, no overanalyzing. We are just going to continue. I normally am a person who, as soon as I make a mistake, I start over. We're not doing that this time. Reason being is we have technology that enables us to edit. Now, I certainly understand those who don't like to edit and you want it to flow freely, and I get that. However, here's the thing. I believe that in the course of me talking, I will gather enough content to where I can put out a piece. I can put out a piece of it. So maybe this entire collection may not be perfect. It may not be pristine. However, I can get 20 seconds out of it. So maybe out of speaking for 20 minutes, maybe I can get some clips out of it. Maybe I can get some shorts out of it. There's any number of things that I can do, that I can get from it. However, it all starts with the need for raw footage. Even in the midst of being a part of an amazing movie called Child Support, by the way, shameless plug, that I'm in, it all starts with raw footage. There is no pristine movie or piece of content without raw footage. We need footage. We need something to edit, something to draw from. We need for something to start, and it doesn't have to start perfectly. In other words, in order to have a vase or in order to have a ceramic sculpture, we need a lump of clay. Nothing starts without the lump of clay. Say if you were looking for pottery, I don't know, whatever it was, you were looking at all these sculptures, all of these things you want to purchase, they had to be molded first. And in order for them to be molded, they needed to start with something, with some sort of matter. It has to start with something. We have to have something to mold. You can't create a sculpture unless you have something to sculpt. So with that in mind, and that could be its own piece of content, with that in mind, I want to talk about, or I want to speak to the young adults, the high school graduates. For the school where I work, graduation is coming up. Graduation is this week. So as I've told you before, I actually teach an elective called Research 1, and this channel is called Research 1 Class because we discuss preparation for life after high school. And also it's a resource for young adults, really anybody. However, it's specifically geared towards the transition from being a teenager towards young adulthood, since that's the population I work with and that I have worked with over the years. But anyway, graduation is coming up, so I'm wondering, what is the plan of action? And also, if you're listening to this and you have young adults in your lives, then pass this along, or even if you don't pass it along, ask these questions. You can even ask these questions secondhand. If you don't show this to them, this can be a resource for the parents or those with young adults in their lives. If you want to help them make a successful transition, then you can do that. You can certainly tap into this channel, into this community. You can add to it. Hopefully the comment section will become something that young adults can refer to. But anyway, the question is, or the topic is going to be about expectations. Expectations as a high school graduate. What exactly are you expecting to happen as you walk across that stage, or after you walk across that stage to hopefully receive your diploma, not certificate of completion, but that's another topic for another day. What are you hoping, or what are you expecting? What are you expecting out of life? How are you expecting things to go? I know that this past semester with my class, we've been completing an end-of-year project that hopefully is helping the young adults clarify their expectations. Hopefully you have clear and realistic expectations for what you are walking into. As you walk across that stage and leave high school, what are you expecting in terms of college, in terms of the workplace, in terms of the military, in terms of entrepreneurship, or whatever it is that you are looking to pursue? What is your expectation? And by the way, I know that this age group is notorious for shrugging their shoulders and just expecting for things to work out naturally. I certainly understand that approach. I get it. You might say, well, whatever's going to be is going to be, or it is what it is. However, I want to encourage you to take some ownership, take some accountability. Yes, you could argue that whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. However, I would argue that there may be infinite possibilities based on your choices. However, they're still based on your choices. You might say whatever's meant to be will be, and I would say that depends on your choices. So maybe every path, every possible path, and every possible outcome may have been outlined. Let's go with that. Let's say that every single path or every possibility has been outlined. It still needs to start with your choice. And that's not something you can shrug your shoulders about, because even if you take a passive role, that is still a choice. If you choose to take the back seat and not direct your own life, there's going to be an outcome to that. And so when you say, oh, I didn't ask for this, well, you also didn't grab the steering wheel and determine a destination. So in other words, it's like that kid song you hear in kindergarten, you get what you get and you don't get upset, that type of thing. So with that in mind, I hope that you are taking a leadership role, whatever your home situation is, whatever your work situation is. If you are currently working, if you've been working throughout your senior year and you're going to continue working, are you going to take on additional hours? Are you going to prioritize making money? Are you going to prioritize preparing for college? What is your priority? That's essentially the question. What are you aiming to do? I know this may sound a bit redundant at times. However, I cannot stress it enough. It's not going to just magically happen for you. It's not. We definitely hope and wish that it would happen for us like magic. However, it's probably not going to happen like magic. Now, to be clear, for my contrarians out there, or those who like to go against the grain just for the sake of going against the grain, could you hit the lottery? Yes. I imagine that is a possibility. You could walk into a convenience store, play the lottery, you could walk into a gas station, buy a lottery ticket, and you could win. But here's the thing, if you're not financially literate, there's a saying that a fool and his money are soon parted. With meaning that even if you did come across a lump sum of money, if you don't know how to handle money, then that is not the solution to your problems. That does not guarantee you a stress-free life. There is almost no amount of money that you can't burn through with a lack of financial literacy. Maybe if you get into the billions, you might say that that's, financial illiterate proof. However, that's still somebody who doesn't know how to spend money. I would even argue that somebody who doesn't know how to spend money or do their best with their money, you might have the best of intentions. So let's say you won the lottery for $2 billion, and let's say that after taxes it was $1 billion. Let's say you won a super duper jackpot. There are people who are kind-hearted but financially illiterate where they would give 1,000 people $1 million. They would give 1,000 people $1 million and end up broke. I know it sounds crazy. However, if you're not financially literate, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not in the driver's seat, if you don't have a clear vision for your life, and if you're not knowledgeable and if you take a passive role, then yes, I could give you $1 billion and it'll go down to zero sooner than later. If you're not knowledgeable, if you don't make that money work for you. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Point being is, what are you expecting? Are you expecting to work 40 hours a week? Are you expecting to continue working 20 hours a week? Were you working 20 hours a week and now you're expecting to go to full time? What is being expected of you? So you might have your expectations. However, I assume you're living with a parent or guardian. What is their expectation? And are your expectations aligned? Do your expectations align with the expectations of your parent or guardian or your family or whoever you're living with? That is a question. Are you expecting to have a roommate? Are you expecting to move out and go out into the world? Are you expecting to rent a place? Are you focused on home ownership? Do you know what's necessary to start that process? Do you have a target in mind? Do you even want to be a homeowner? These are all considerations that are important to make. They are extremely important to make. By the way, I have to say I'm extremely proud of myself for not hitting pause, because normally I'll find something wrong or I'll be critiquing myself as I speak and I'll stop myself, even if I'm in the midst of something that could potentially go viral if I would just push forward. But anyway, I digress. Maybe that'll be a separate clip. But anyway, what is the expectation? I'm going to keep coming back to that. Do you have a driver's license? Do you have a permit? If you don't have those things, are you going to get those things? Do you have a support system to where you're able to practice driving if you haven't learned how to drive? If you already have learned how to drive, and if you have your license, and if you're already driving, are you being a safe driver? I alluded to this in a previous video. However, I would say this. I'm a parent of a 22-year-old. He's currently supporting himself. He's living up in Orlando, living life. However, if he were still living with me, or if he were still living with me and his mother, we would be having those discussions and I would be saying to him to be a safe driver. I wouldn't necessarily ask him to contribute towards the insurance policy. However, one thing he could do, if I didn't ask him to contribute towards it, I would be making sure, or doing my best to make sure, that he's a safe driver, because that impacts the premium, that impacts the 6-month premium that you may or may not be having to pay for. You'll definitely understand it if you happen to be paying for your own insurance, or if you have to pay for your own insurance once you get a vehicle if you don't have one already. It'll definitely hit home then. However, if you're on your parent or guardian's policy, I would think that their expectation is that you're going to be a safe driver, to not make that monthly premium or that 6-month premium any higher than it already is, because it already went up by virtue of adding you to the policy as a young driver. Again, this is directed towards teens and young adults, and for this message specifically high school graduates. So the bulk of you are probably 17, 18 years old. Maybe some of you might be 16, some of you might be 19, maybe a few of you might be a little older or even younger, but the bulk of you, I would argue, are probably 16 at the youngest, 18 at the oldest, depending on your birthday as a high school senior. So anyway, what is the expectation? And also for the 18-year-olds, things are definitely different for you, for the 18 and up high school graduates, than for those who are still under 18. What is your expectation? What expectations do you have of yourself and of others as a young adult, as someone who is now a legal adult? Now, I know a lot of people might say, well, you're still a kid, you're still a baby. However, I'm sure you're realizing that you are not one, because there are things that are being expected of you. Or I would think there are new expectations now, but maybe there aren't. Maybe you're in a situation where it will be business as usual. Maybe your parent or guardian said, just because you turned 18, you are still a kid, and you still need to follow the house rules. Which, by the way, you should follow the house rules anyway. You should follow and respect the house rules. You should respect whoever's roof you are under and anyone under your roof. That's also another topic for another day. But what is the expectation? Once again, are they expecting you to pay rent? Are you expecting to pay rent? What is your expected contribution to the household? Hopefully you've clarified this already, but if you haven't, and if you are the parent or guardian or a loved one of a young adult, have these conversations. It could not hurt. Please make sure to have these real-life, practical conversations. I've definitely had these conversations with my students, and that is why I created Research 1 class, so that we could expand these discussions to include those all around the world, wherever you may be, anybody with a Wi-Fi connection, anybody with internet access, anybody with internet with access to YouTube, anybody with access to the World Wide Web. Hopefully, you are having these discussions about what is expected of you if you're just graduating high school, if you're about to graduate high school, if you just turned 18 years old, if you're going to be 18 years old in the near future, in the next month, in the next year, whatever it may be, even if it was the next few years, it's never too early to have these discussions. Never too early. And that's why I created this platform. So I know that this may be a bit messy, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's perfect. Maybe it's messy to some people, and maybe it's perfect for someone else. I'm not going to continue to be the judge of that. I'm going to let the market decide. So, as a part of, declaring your expectations and understanding and clarifying your expectations, that just has to do with taking a lead role in your life. Being proactive. That is so critical. I can't stress that enough. How critical it is for you to take an active role in creating the life you want for yourself. You'll hear me refer to that often. Create the life you want for yourself. Create the life you want for yourself. Please take ownership, take an active role in that. And I was just going to say that part of me pushing through is getting over that overthinking. I tend to overthink at times. However, today was an opportunity for me to push through that. And also, too, I'm sure I'll reiterate this in future videos. Whatever your high school experience was, this is a new opportunity. You walk across that stage, it's a new opportunity. And even before then, every day is a new opportunity. If you haven't been doing things the right way, if you're disappointed in how you've been performing, every day is a new day, another opportunity. There's a saying that every day above ground is a good day. It's another opportunity. Today's a new day. If today was rough, if you're listening to this, if today was rough, if tonight was rough, if this afternoon was rough, if your class was rough, if work was rough, if fill in the blank was rough, hopefully, Lord willing, you'll have a new day. Every day you wake up, it's a new day, a new opportunity. Even if the situation you're in seems impossible, today is a new day to choose a new perspective on it. And this is not intended to just be rah-rah, typical motivation speak. This is just a real life situation that I want you, and I would hope that you understand this as a teenager transitioning into young adulthood. Today is a new day. Beating yourself up about what happened, whether you graduated with a 2.0 or 4.0 or anything in between, today is a new day. If you got a 4.0, that doesn't guarantee you life success. It certainly helps in some arenas. However, it doesn't guarantee you lifelong success. If you got a 2.0, that doesn't guarantee you lifelong failure. Now, I'm not diminishing those who got a 4.0. If you got a 4.0, good for you, great job. Make sure you transfer that discipline onto another area or other areas of your life. However, if you weren't the stellar student, if you didn't win homecoming king or homecoming queen or most popular or most likely to succeed, if you didn't win any of those senior superlatives, that is okay, because today is a new day. This is a new chapter in your life that you are going to, that you're transitioning into. This is a new situation. For my athletes out there, I'm a huge sports fan. So if you played sports in high school or you did different activities, whatever extracurricular activities, if you didn't win that extracurricular activity, or if you didn't win states, that's okay. If you didn't win districts or didn't win regionals or go to regionals or whatever it is, today's a new day. Today's a new chapter. It is a new chapter. I can't stress that enough. So with that in mind, what is your expectation for your new chapter? Because things are going to be different. There are going to be changes, and simply staring at your phone and scrolling is not going to make that disappear. Hopefully you've learned by now that ignoring situations or ignoring reality does not make reality disappear. So hopefully we realize that. Another thing I want to speak on is to please understand that life is precious and you will not be young forever. I know it may seem like that because up to this point, if you're 17, 18 years old, the only frame of reference you have is being a child, being a teenager. You don't have any other frame of reference, so that's all you've ever known up to this point. However, please take my word for it that it's fleeting, and that's not meant to scare you, that's meant to inform you. Youth is not forever. Nothing is forever, for better or worse. Good times are not forever. Bad times are not forever. So please make use of this time. You're actually at a point in your life where people will invest heavily in your success because you are literally viewed as the future. You may not even have an interest in your own future, and I can tell you that society by and large sees you as the future because you are, whether you actively choose that or not, you are seen as the future. You are the next generation. So therefore you can take advantage of that. You can leverage society's interest in your success. I'll tell you a quick story. I'm currently a graduate student. I'm currently getting my master's in instructional technology. I applied for numerous graduate school scholarships and I didn't get any of them. Even though I got the best letters of recommendation, I have plenty of professional experience to speak to my qualifications and all of those things, or at least I believed that I was a strong candidate. However, I didn't get any of those scholarships. The only scholarship I received is a scholarship in which I have to exchange an extra 3 years of service in the school system. So without trading time in exchange for that scholarship, I didn't get it. I didn't get anything that was strictly merit-based. So in other words, the scholarship I received is going to cost me time. However, you as a young adult, you're more likely to be able to receive merit-based scholarships that don't have any strings attached, for lack of a better term. Mine have strings attached. So take that for what it's worth. I'm not complaining, by the way. I'm just pointing out the difference to say that we definitely are in different places. We're in different places in the sense that I have to pay for my scholarship. I have to trade time. I have to trade something. There are conditions attached to my scholarship, whereas for yours, there are numerous undergraduate scholarships or opportunities or whatever it may be. And even if you are not interested in college, there are all sorts of what do you call that? Apprenticeships. There are all kinds of vocational programs. Any of the above. You can do trade school, you can do entrepreneurship, you can certainly acquire skills. So I'll come back to my original point though. What is your expectation? Are you expecting everything I just named to fall into your lap? Are you expecting the loved ones in your life? Are you expecting your mom, your dad, your guardian, your parent, your uncle, your aunt, whoever, your grandmother, your grandfather? Are you expecting them to do it for you? Hopefully you have learned that things work much better with your buy-in. Your life is literally better with your buy-in, and when you buy into your own life, you are also helping people help you. I hope that you recognize and understand that. So with that in mind, I have arrived at my destination. Thank you so much for listening, and this has been another Research 1 class. Y'all take it easy.